Hey, She Slayers, this is a special sample cut from this week's episode. If you find this interesting, be sure to make time to go listen to the entire episode released this past Sunday. And please be sure to help a girl out and follow or subscribe to this podcast. So, when you're working with women, what are some of the three worst habits, or what are the things that we're just absolutely doing wrong, in your
Yeah.
opinion, when it comes to time management?
So and what I'm going to say is going to freak everybody out, but just trust me, I'll explain it. The root problem of all of this is that women live by a daily task list.
I hate you already.
And everyone's like, well, instantly they shut me down. They're like, well, if I don't have my task list, then how the hell am I going to know what I'm doing?
Okay.
So there is a solution to this problem, but I want you to understand subtly why what we think is our lifeline, our daily task list, is actually making things a million times worse. And there's three reasons why. So, first is when you wake up in the morning and you do what some quote productivity experts tell you to do your brain dump, write down everything you've got to get done today. And then for some reason, somebody decided to say, identify your top three.
Yeah.
And I've spent wasted hours of my life trying to get to the root of that. There is no scientific evidence or any need for anyone to ever circle a top three. So you can let that go as well. But we're supposed to make this massive task list, identify our top three, and then go about our merry way. Goal is get them all checked off before you go into bed. If you don't, you're a failure. And then tomorrow you rewrite half the list and you start this just cyclical death trap process over again.
Hmm.
Well, first, when you make the list, no one's ever sitting down and saying, as I'm writing this, let me write down how long each one of these will take. And then let me go look at the realities of my day today to see, is this even physically possible? 99% of the time, it is not. You are making a list of things that might take you 7 hours, but the reality of your life is you have 3.5. So you're already setting yourself up for failure because the list is barely ever realistic in terms of being able to be accomplished. So then it kind of leads to the second problem, which is your brain doing exactly what it's designed to do. So you sit down, maybe you've got 21 things on the list, which is not uncommon for a
Which
lot of
we
people.
think is a way of
Yeah,
organizing.
not forgetting anything, staying
Yep.
on top of it. I don't want to forget anything. So we make this list of, let's say you've got 21 things on your list. And then you start off with the question of, okay, what am I going to do first?
Yep.
Well, when you have a list that long, your brain, the chemicals trigger the same as fight, flight, mentality, or freeze, fight, flight, or freeze.
Hmm.
So that same chemical reaction that happens if a bear walks into your house is triggering when you're looking at that list. So your brain then does exactly what it's designed to do, which is alleviate stress. So if it's a bear, it's going to tell me, get the hell out of here, Megan, right? Well, if I'm looking at this long list and I'm in panic about it, my brain is going to say, what's the easiest check mark? How can I get my first check mark as quick as possible?
Get my first dopamine hit.
Yeah. And
This
so
is
it's
why
going to
some
pick.
losers, I'm not
And
put
that's what, and our
things
brain's
that
going, I
they've
need a check.
already done that morning
Yeah.
on the list when they finally get
And
around
that's
to
why
making
people
their
write
list.
down, make the list, right? So that as soon as they're done, they can check something off. It's their brain going,
Uh-huh.
I need to know we're going to be okay. Well, 99% of the time, the thing that gets the quickest check is probably one of the least important things that you've even tossed out there.
Mhm.
So we often end up working from the least important on up because we're just trying
The
to
easiest.
get those check marks. And then the third, which is also kind of in that same fight or flight thing, is your task list also causes incredible decision fatigue. So when you wake up every day, our brain has a limited amount of energy, the same type of stuff we pull from for willpower, right? To help us make good decisions. You have a limited capacity of that every day. And the only way you really refuel that is rest and going to sleep. So if I were to hand you an apple or an orange and say, hey, Lauren, what do you want? Apple or orange? Your brain is going to go two things, easy, and pick. Now, if I hand you a basket of 17 pieces of fruit and I say, which fruit do you want? Your brain's like, oh, this is hard.
Mhm.
And so it's going to ramp up the amount of energy you pull from it in order to make that decision. Well, every single time you look at your task list, which you're looking at all day long, you're creating more and more decision fatigue because you're going, what am I going to do next? And when it's having to choose between a lot of things, it's pulling all that energy early in the day because the list is longer. And so then by, 3 o'clock, we're like, well, there goes that. And now everywhere in our life, we start making bad choices because we've hit decision fatigue, right? Your spouse comes in and is like, where do you want to go for dinner? You're like, for the
I don't
love
fucking
of
care.
God,
Yep.
just pick somewhere. Like, I'm maxed out. I can't make any more decisions today. And so we stay in this perpetual state of not working on the things that really were the most important to us when our brain is at its best capacity, constantly operating in a state of decision fatigue, and always setting ourselves up for failure of never getting everything done when we operate from this precious task list. And this is why I always tell people a task list is not a plan. So the first thing that everyone who goes through my course learns how to do, and we build up to it, is to master weekly planning. So instead of having your calendar over here, whether it's a Google Calendar or a paper planner, whatever you're using, your calendar over here with your appointments in it, and then your task list somewhere else, usually in lots of places, an
Mhm.
app, a notebook, post-it notes, all of that. We have to learn how we create and integrate those two together so that you have one place all week long that is integrating in the task list with the appointments. So instead of every day starting the day with like, okay, what do I need to get done today? All day long, I'm looking at the plan I created at the start of my week saying, what did I plan to do next?
Mhm.
You tell me what I'm doing next. And the way that I teach this ensures that we're not overcommitting and getting overscheduled. Now, initially, it's a real hard pill to swallow because people will have to look at the reality of, I'm trying to shove in 3 weeks worth of stuff into 1 week,
Right.
and it's not physically possible. But we have to see it and we have to have a planning system that shows it to help us then make the right choices of where we actually want to spend our time.
Okay, I have multiple questions.